Without any further ado, let's move over to the video and I'll show you what we're going to do here today. Okay, well, thanks for joining. My name is Mark. Now you should be able to see me just fine. If it takes a minute, don't worry about it. I'm going to be a minute or so deep before we get going. I move my water out of the way. I'm going to come up close and show you what we're going to make today. So this is the patch that we've made. And I'm going to show you how we cut this out, what material we used and all that. And I'll tell you the story behind this while we get going. So the story behind this is the same thing that's actually going to happen to you as you are an embroiderer. So if you've been in it for years, this has happened to you. If you're new to the business, this will happen to you. But a friend of mine, he works at this shop where they sell those e-cigarette devices, okay? And he works at one of these shops and he helps people build their own custom devices and coils and stuff. And it's a thing that he does. So they have patches on their uniforms that they just got some uniforms and he went and he asked to get some patches created. So he got a patch with his name on it and a couple other things, a little logo, and it didn't look really good. And he kind of joked about it. He's like, oh, I paid like $10 for this thing. It doesn't really look good. And I said, I don't even make patches all day, and I can do a better job than that. And I said, and honestly, there's a method that we have that looks really clean. I want to tell the person who made this, but this method. But if this is you, what it means is you know somebody who works in an industry, works for somewhere, you are a part of a club or an organization. I've got another patch right here that we have that I haven't cut out yet. This is the National Wild Turkey Federation. It's a conservation, federation. And this is another one, same type of scenario. Somebody that works here, is in that industry. So you're a member of a club, of an organization, or something like that, and you are going to be connected with people who like, use, want, and need patches, and you're going to want to be able to make it for them. Okay. Every once in a while, I'll pop up the question screen and make sure that nobody had any questions or nothing's fallen apart on the internet. So we've made that patch. So how did we do it? Let's just get right into the different pieces of the puzzle. All right, get the keyboard and mouse out of the way for a minute. I'm not going to answer any questions now that I don't have a keyboard and mouse. I will go and grab that in a minute, but I want to really focus on this for now. So what do we have? All right, let's talk about some of the materials that we have and what we need to be able to make patches. So I'm going to break down two main materials that we've got here. And I'm going to bring the camera a little bit closer so we can see this. Take a ride with me. There we go. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got two materials that we're looking at right now, okay? One of them is our patch twill material. That's what this is. And then the other one we've got is what we just call our regular patch material. Now, right away, you can see two things. You're going to see that the one that is the orange color, the more of the orange color, the sun yellow color, that is got a really high sheen to it. And if we look up close even, amongst the lighting and as the sheen is going away, we can see that there is this embroidered look to this. There is a texture to the way that the fabric is sewn out that when you put embroidery on top of it, it like pops out. It looks really hot. It comes out good. And here's an example of one that we'll cut out in a minute. But you can see the texture in there, and you can see the lettering and the border really pop because there's much more sheen to this than this. The second material that we've got, this is our patch twill material. This has got a light sheen to it, and it's fairly flat. This is a more satin type of a finish, and that's what we use on this patch that we're discussing today. Okay, so everything pops out, but the background is more subdued. The background doesn't pop as much, and where embroidery is popping more. So it depends on the look that you want, what type of patches you're going to use, and which material you're going to choose. The cost and price of everything, I mean, when you start breaking it down patch by patch, becomes negligible in the difference. And the way that you sew it, they're going to sew out just as nice as well. But there's a few other things that we need to get this going. Okay, so the first material I'd like to show you, this is called our our heat spun material. Now, this is a very, very lightweight type of glue material. You can see through it. You can see the color of the material through it, and it tears very easy. This is a very thin material. This is our stabilizer or backing for our patch mat material, okay? So our patch material is very soft. It is, when you cut it, it will fray a little bit on the edges. It is a very lightweight material. You can imagine embroidering on this and how it could just become a mess. That's why we use our heat spun material. And it is as simple as this sounds. All you do is when you buy a patch kit, you're going to get both of these. Okay, if you buy this patch kit with this patch material, you will get some heat spun. All you do is you take about the same size of material, and I mean, you can even do this by hand if you're if you're that type of person, which is me. If you're like me, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to bring this over to the heat press just like this. That's kind of how I do things. If you're more meticulous, like Michael, you'll see in our other videos, he will cut these to the exact size. And then the step that you do here is you take this over to your heat press, like so. And you would take just some, this is silicone release paper. You can use parchment. You could use a Teflon sheet. But you take a material like this. You can see I've pressed it before with the patch. And you can take 2 sheets of it or sandwich it together like this. Put it under the heat. When you're done, you pull this apart. And you end up with this. Now, Mark, I can't see anything. It doesn't look any different, does it? But let's look at this. Okay, we can hold this. This is a nice, sturdy, firm material now. Not too firm. It's not stiff or uncomfortable or odd, but compared to this. And you can see the difference here. So this holds nice and flat. When you're hooping this material, it's going to hoop in nice and tight and taut, and it has already got backing on it. You don't have to add necessarily any other stabilizer. Now, the only thing I would say in addition to that is if you've got a really complex design and you go to sew it out and you're getting a little bit of shift and buckle or you can't quite get it, there's a pretty cool thing that you can do. You can take some regular tearaway backing, and I'm sure I've got a sheet. Okay. So this is a black, but just a tearaway, okay? You take that tearaway. Cap backing is good. Must be tearaway. Not cut away because you're going to waste your time. You hoop this up. Okay, you pop this in your hoop, click it on your embroidery machine. Now it's in your embroidery machine ready to go. You could take a tearaway backing, or you could take a cap backing, and you could float it between your needle plate. So you got your needle plate down here. I'm sorry, if this was your needle plate, then you could float the material on top in your hoop. And this can just hang out underneath it. And that can give you a little bit of a tearaway, so when you're done, you rip it off the back. And do I have a floated one that I did here? I don't think I did. But I will do that next time, as a matter of fact. I don't do it often because these designs aren't, I mean, they're intricate, but I didn't have any issues sewing them out. I'm just offering you a tip. If you need additional stability, float some tearaway or some cap backing underneath between the needle plate and the hoop. You don't necessarily have to hoop it even together. So, Beyond that, we've now got our two prepared materials. Okay, that's why I changed the color so you can easily see. This is now prepared. This has got the heat spun on the back. Remember, heat spun material with see-through material. And the twill material already has a coating on the back. So this patch twill material, it's already got a glue adhered to the back already. So we've got both of these are ready to be hooped and ready to be sewn out. What do we do next? Okay, so we need to sew these out. So we'd hoop them up, hoop it. Before we go further, I'm just going to check to make sure that there's no questions. I see the speech bubble popping up a little bit. I'm going to bring that up and take a look to see if there's anything interesting in here. All right, Joyce had an issue seeing things. Again, as I mentioned before, if you have trouble seeing what is going on, close down, reopen, click the blue snowflake, etc. Okay, someone asked, when embellishing garments, is it always best to pre-wash the items? No, I don't ever, basically. There are some items that can shrink a lot. If you know it's going to really, really shrink a lot, you may want to pre-wash it, but I really wouldn't be interested in washing. If I had 100 shirts to do, 150 shirts to do, and I was doing patches and shirts and all this together, I wouldn't want to run that through all my washing machine. And I don't own a commercial washer and dryer. You probably don't either. You probably own a commercial embroidery machine and a cutter and some other things, but you probably don't own that commercial stuff. So I wouldn't do it. You're going to kill your washer and dryer. Don't do it unless it's a really weird scenario and you just have to get the job right. What do we do next? Okay, so we've taken this, we've hooped it up, right? You can see where my hoop was. We've thrown it into our sewing machine and we've sewn it out, or into our embroidery machine, and we've gotten a couple jobs like this. I did a couple different colors. You can even do it this way. Look at this. So I put all of these. This was in a big hoop, and I just kind of started a job to see and just to try to give you an example. These are just a bunch that we just cut out just so I can have a bunch of samples to cut. But this is an example of what you can do. And it can be with this patch. It could be with this type of patch. It doesn't matter. You could fill up a really big hoop with a whole bunch of patches. So you can see where you can actually get a nice little production run going. Imagine a patch this big. Maybe 16 of them on here. Just doing some quick math, maybe 4 down, 4 across, something like that. But you can do a lot of patches at once, which means you get this going, you make sure that first one is sewing out good, and boom, you just let it run and keep going out. And then you can get your variable data in here as well. So if it's a bunch of name tabs, you've got Iris, Crespo, Bubba, Jerry, Joe, Kenny, Pablo. You can go through and you can do all that. You can digitize all that ahead of time into one file and get a whole nice slew of patches. And that will save you material because you can get them really as tight together as you choose. Just as enough room that you have enough to cut. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. You can also just do a single patch like I did. All of these that I did were all just single patches. So it was just one hooped, one material, one design, and this might be a custom-made patch. People ask all the time, well, what would I charge for one patch? Well, I believe this was 7,000 stitches or so it's 10 minutes on my machine. I always say price patches according to the time on the machine and the time that it takes for you to cut it. So this is going to be very easy to cut, and this is going to be easy to cut. If I had a really intricate patch, like some of the ones you saw on our homepage earlier, that might take me 3 times as long to cut. I'm going to charge more. Find out how much you want to make per hour making patches, and then calculate how long it's going to take to make each patch, and there's your cost. So if you want to make $100 per hour of doing this, you need to make $100 in profit. If you can only make 10 in an hour, you're going to want to profit $10 a patch. Maybe these are going to be $12 a piece for the patches. Maybe. It all is going to depend on your market, on how big the patch is, how complicated it is, what the customer is like, the quantity and everything. There's not one formula, but folks tell me 4 to $15 is like this range, and then some folks do really complicated large stuff, and they say that one patch could cost a few $100s, especially if it's a big jacket back patch, which you can do. You saw the size of the material, you can do a jacket back patch. So anyway, let's move on to actually cutting some patches out. What's the next step we have to do? So we need some heat seal material. So I'm going to take this one here, and we'll do probably two. So we'll do two separate ones. And we need some heat seal material. That's what this is right here. It comes with your patch kit. You could buy it separately as well. So I'm going to cut out a couple pieces real quick. Scissors. That's the other thing you need to make patches. This will work just fine for this. So let me show you what we're going to do with these. What I have, this is a JP14, it's a Georgia Knight heat press. By the way, if you don't have a heat press and you want one to be able to do patches, this is a cool place to start. It's little, it's a swing away. The versatility is okay, but for the price, it's a really high quality beast of a device that is much better than buying a generic one that is of poor quality, that might have more features. So it's a beast. It's a good device. For now, it is currently the one that comes. The 12-inch one is the one that comes with our large patch kit. We've also got the 14-inch one, and we've got much larger heat presses too if you're going to do more. So let me show you what you do. You take your patch, or your whole row of patches like we saw with that big one. We're going to put our heat seal down. You can leave the paper on behind it. And then what I like to do is I'll take another sheet or just sandwich it. The reason why I do this is because even though this has got a backing to it and everything looks like it's going to be fine, when I heat press this, I don't want any of that in the back of my heat press ever. I mean, that would just be terribly frustrating to deal with. Don't put a ridiculous amount of pressure. All right? 10 seconds is more than enough to get going. All right, now this is stuck together. Well, I should say the heat seal material stuck to the patch. That's exactly what we want. Let's do another one. So we'll take our material. Excuse my reach. Thank you. So heat seal. If I have a little too much, I try to trim it back, but it's fine if you end up heat pressing it because you're between this paper here. Everything's going to be safe if you're using the paper. So I will make my little sandwich or two sheets. If you've got a heat press with Teflon wraps in the top and bottom, good for you because that saves a whole bunch of time. You don't have to really worry about that much at all. So we're going to let that sit just for 10 seconds is enough. All the instructions are on the website, by the way. When you go to buy your patch kit, scroll down. You're going to see all the instructions. You don't have to write all this down and remember. Now, this is really hot right now. I know I'm touching it, but I'm trying to do fast for the video to move through it. So this is very hot in my hands, so be careful with it. You want to let it cool down just a bit so you have enough time to handle it. So let's bring it over. What's that hat? Witch's hat on my piece of glass here. It was there, so I left it, and I figured it'd give me a second to plug another product that I like of ours. But this is some hard surface material. If you do rhinestones, this is a material that you can buy that we sell. It's a hard surface material, and it's a sticker material. So you can actually put your rhinestones, adhere them to this material, and stick them on glass and windows and windshields and all this type of stuff. So it's a cool little product, and we usually end up just sticking it to our glass that we use for patches. Cut the patches on some glass. It's the material that we recommend. The temperature that we're going to use, by the way, 300, 320, all of those numbers are right on the patch kit page, by the way. When you go to buy this stuff on the patch kit page, Scroll down, and every single step that I'm talking about is written out in detail with times and temperatures and materials and everything. And I'll show you before we leave. But today, what I would say today is focus on what's happening, and then go to the page and really pay attention to the details through the written instructions, or watch this video with me. But 300, 320 degrees, that's your range for the heat spun, for the heat seal. Right now, this was at about 330, which is fine. That's a safe range. The biggest thing you want to make sure of is you don't squish it down. And I have an example. Here we go. This is what will happen if you take this patch and you clamp it down too hard for too long. All right, if you can see it, this has gotten all browned and discolored. It's not because it burned. The glue has literally seeped through the material to the other side. This patch is essentially ruined, but we use examples like this because people will call up and say, why is my patch discolored? I only did it for 8 seconds. You told me 10. I even did it for less. You squished it down too hard. You squished it so much that you pushed the glue through the fabric. And you can't tell really, but you can kind of see through it almost. You've ruined it. You've almost made the material a little translucent. It's kind of bizarre how that happens. Too much pressure is probably the cause of that. So now we've got this. I've got a little hanging thread here. Let me clip that off. So what do we do next? We've got our heat material sealed onto this, and we've got our patch. The next thing we're going to do is cut it out with a hot knife. But before we cut out with a hot knife, I'm just going to describe to you with the hot knife some instructions, since this is instructional and I want to talk to you about it. Plus, my hot knife wasn't plugged in early enough because I literally just plugged it in a minute ago. So it's not quite hot yet. So I also need to waste a few minutes of time. But don't worry, we're not going to waste it. It is going to be educational, and we're going to use our time wisely. So let's talk a little bit about the theory behind this. I have to move this over a bit. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the theory behind cutting this stuff out and what we do. All right, so when we're cutting it out, for one, you want to have glass. You want to have a material that's not going to get hot, that's not going to burn, that's not going to get damaged as you use it. So what does that mean? It means don't cut it out on plastic, don't cut it out on an acrylic sheet, don't cut it out on a wooden table. And a metal table wouldn't burn, but a metal table does conduct electricity and heat very well. So what does that mean to you? It means that as you're cutting this on a metal table, it's going to start getting hot in and of itself, and it's going to be harder to work with. So what's our theory behind this is what we're trying to do here, and if you can see it well, is we are trying to cut right on that edge, and we want to go a little bit at an angle. And what we're actually trying to do is to cut kind of in between and below, right on the edge. And we want to try to keep this top layer of stitches nice and clean, neat and clean. We want this to be clean because we don't want to see our cut on the top. Okay, if we don't have to, we want to see the cut kind of hanging below underneath there. So go a little bit at an angle, not too much, because then it's not going to look good. It's not going to be a clean looking cut. It's going to get sloppy. And not straight up and down, because then you're going to burn a lot of your top stitches. So my recommendations to you towards the beginning as you're doing these patches: one, whenever possible, start with a darker colored thread with a lighter colored patch, or even a darker patch with a darker thread. A darker thread is going to be easier for you in the beginning. Why? Because if you burn a little bit of the material, then you're not going to see it as much. Why? Because if you burn something that's black or brown or dark blue or dark red, you're not going to see it as much as if you burn yellow or white thread. How are you going to burn it? By not going fast enough, not going deep enough, not moving along quick enough, not wiping off clean enough. So that's one thing. The other is that when you're doing a light colored like this looks fine. I mean, this looks great. I mean, this is a very easy patch to make and do, and it's very simple. And this does too. But when you're cutting with lighter materials, you're going to see your patch material a little bit on the edge, and that's just the nature of what it is. So because you're melting the material, so on your very edge of your patch, you're going to have your inside color, your outside border, and then the edge of your patch is going to be kind of the color of your material. And it looks great. I mean, the quality of it is fine. That's no big deal. But you have to understand that as well, that's part of the process. This is not done with a mirroring machine that is adding this after the fact, where I made a patch and then I ran it through a machine, that mirrored out the edges for me. That's another way to do it. That's another method. That's another machine to own. That's a whole nother skill to learn. The skill of doing this is not very much at all. Let's see if my knife is warm enough yet. I might be. Looks like I'm pretty good, right? I was able to cut that well. Yeah. So my knife is nice and hot, so let's get ready to make a cut. But right before I cut, I'm going to cut this one out for you too, so we can cut out the two different types of material. So I'm just going to get a real little piece of heat seal. Do you have to sew them on? Someone's going to ask that eventually. No, I wouldn't, personally, just because I don't have to. It's much faster to use the heat press, because this is the effort of heat pressing them onto a garment. It's the same as using the heat seal now. You take your shirt, and we'll put one on a shirt in the end, but you take your patch, you put it on a shirt, you take your heat seal, you put it on a patch, you put it down a few hundred degrees, about 10 seconds is all you need. You're really just trying to fuse them together so you can make it, so you can cut this nicely. So that's ready to go. Okay. So let's do this one first. Got my hot knife, and then the next thing I'm going to have close is my paper towel. The reason you want a paper towel is as you are cutting your patch, as we're going through and doing this, some of the material is going to build up on the knife itself. Okay? So as it builds up on the knife, I'm just going to wipe it off. Like that. Not very complicated. So let's do it. Go quick. And as I get to a point that I feel that I've built up a lot, I'll just wipe it for a second. You'll find the right speed and timing for you and the patches you're doing. Now, right on this edge here, I'm going to go a little bit out and back in on purpose. I want to show you a way to clean that up. So you can see it right now. You can see I've left a little bit of the material there, like I didn't get close enough. I'm going to show you how you handle that, because that's going to happen no matter how many patches you do. All right, so let's finish it up real quick. Done. Our patch is cut out. We've done almost everything. It's great, but it's not perfect because we got that edge right there that I told you that I cut a little farther apart. Let me show you what I do there. So I'll take my hot knife, and two things I can do. One is I can just get back down there in this larger piece, and I can just kind of recut it again. No problem. I've taken that little bit off, and it'll come right off my glass. The next is, maybe it's not that much. Maybe it's too close to cut. So on the edge of my knife, just go like that and just walk it across. Anywhere where you see a material that doesn't look smooth and perfect, you can just walk it all the way around. And some folks just say, because I talk to folks on the phone about patches all the time, and they're like, I just do that on all my patches. When I'm done, I just go around the whole patch really fast, and that just makes the whole edge nice and smooth and clean, and it just makes sure that every patch has got this perfect smooth edge. Some folks do that all the time. Other folks say, I cut it, and if there's a little bit of edge, it's no problem because my customers even like when I leave that. So whatever, you can do what you want. This is your business, right? You're the boss, not me. I mentioned parchment paper. What about freezer paper? I suppose that'd be fine. I think that is slightly synonymous, but I don't know much about the word freezer paper specifically. You don't want to use a paper that's got a wax coating, a silicone. That's silicone release paper. That's fine. If it has any coating that's going to melt like wax paper, that you're gonna make that mistake once on your heat press, and then you're gonna spend 30 minutes cleaning it up and never make it again. Don't use a wax paper, but a silicone paper, which we sell, you can buy a pack of it and it'll last you forever. It'll last you probably every patch you ever make, because I've been using the same sheet for months, and I just keep using it over and over again, because it doesn't matter if it gets crinkled and rolled up or anything like that, because you're just using it to protect your heat press. Let's do Andy. Let's get Andy his patch. Now Andy's patch is what I told you about, that's a little bit harder to work with, and I'll show you what'll happen at the end, and hopefully I'll do a great job. Let's go around and let's cut out Andy real quick. Now I'm going to wipe a lot more on this because I've got that yellow thread, and I really don't want to put any burnt blue material on that yellow thread. I'm just not going to be happy if it looks like that. And guess what? You can charge a little bit more for a lighter colored edge. If you suggest a black edge and they say, I really want a white edge, and you say, well, I prefer the black because it is faster production for me, I'll be happy to do the white or yellow. On the white or yellow, though, I charge a little bit more because it takes me more work. You could say that. It might not make a difference to you. Maybe you don't say anything. Maybe you just buck up and do it, or maybe it looks fine. So I'm going to clean up my edge. Remember, you're the boss. All right. So let me show you this. Now, the yellow is not burnt or tinged at all. Nothing looks wrong with the yellow. On the edge, what we talked about is you're going to see that little blue of your material because you've melted away material that's there. But if Andy doesn't like this patch that I made for him, nothing was going to make Andy happy. But I will say that there's some stitch cleanup that I could have done on this. But either way, it's a nice, clean looking patch. This is very, very simple. And this one here, this is here. Which one did we cut out today? I don't remember if we cut out this one or this one just now. But anyway, these are just really sharp looking. The embroidery is cool. We got a logo on there. We got Coil Master, and this was inspired by somebody in real life that if I was an embroiderer, I could bring this, and this guy, he would buy this in a second. He'd probably pay twice as much money as he would have paid for this other, because this looks awesome. It's got his company logo on it, and it looks much better than the stuff that was created by somebody who just didn't really put any effort into buying good materials and doing a good job. Let's see here. Can a customer use a regular iron, or do we have to heat press it? Yes. Thank you for asking that. So how do you charge for these, Jet? Yeah, I actually mentioned about that earlier, and I'll reiterate it while I'm getting a t-shirt to put these on. How do I charge for patches? It is not, there's not one way to charge for patches, okay? The way that you're going to want to charge for patches is going to be by time. I always say charge by time, not by material, not by patch. You can do it according to what your competition does, but if you're doing a better job, which I hope you are, then you have the right to charge more because it is better, right? I'm going to pay more for a better car or TV or computer or phone, and I would pay more for a better patch. So do a really good job. But let me tell you how I would charge it. The way I would charge by time is if I wanted to make $100 an hour and I can make 10 in an hour, then I would take whatever it cost me. Say I spent $20 in materials to make the patches, then it cost me $20. I want to profit $100, so I need to earn $120 in an hour. I'm doing 10 of them. They're $12 a piece. That's the math I would do. Now that's just a random example. The patch might only be $8 in material, and you might be able to make 16 in an hour. But if the $100 is an hour good, you do the math that way. That's the way I recommend it. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you use lots of material, or you take a lot of time, and maybe you have to reduce your profitability per hour. But other jobs will make up for it, meaning that you will do something that you could do 40 of them in an hour, and you could charge $5 a piece. You've made way more than your expectations. So I find it balances out, but try to find your hourly rate and stick to it. So I'm going to use a heat press to adhere this, but can you use an iron? Yes. There are instructions for the iron on the page as well. Basically, crank it up, no steam, about 20 seconds usually on an iron is going to handle it. You only need 10 seconds on a t-shirt. So I've got my cut and press logo on the left here. So say this was, who I was working with. And then I've got their patch that I created for them right here. Got my left chest, so I'll go, 4 inches from the center, 7 inches down, so right about there. And then there it is. Where's my paper? Right under my shirt. Where are my glasses? Right on my head. My phone was right in my pocket. Everything's right where it belongs most of the time, and I can't find it. So you take your patch. I still recommend that you use a little bit of your silicone release paper or something like that. When you're working with the glue, it can seep out, it liquefies. You don't want to get that on your heat press. It's going to make a mess. It's going to burn and smell, and you're going to have to clean it up. Or worse, you don't even realize it transferred over. You do this, and there's some glue bubbling and cooking under there. It only takes, it might be this much. It might be that little bit of glue or material stuck to it. And right now it's cooking because it's stuck under there. No big deal, right? No hazard or issue that you have to deal with until you flip it back over and you go to put it on a nice white shirt. And then you lift it up and you've got this black burnt material there. That sucks, right? So here we go. Our patch is adhered. Well, what if they wash it? Don't worry. What if it's going to last as long as any embroidery job you would have done. This stuff is awesome. People love it. We have nothing but great comments. It's one of our most popular products. If you have a customer who you know is going to beat the garment up, like they're going to, like a mechanic, where they're going to wash it and wear it hard, they're going to, because they're going to get grease on it and they're probably going to be scrubbing it. If you know they're going to beat it up, you can turn it inside out and you can give it another shot and you're not going to ruin anything. So that's another way to even give it some more power and more. And what you're doing is basically just you're putting heat from both sides of the patch on both sides, and the material on both sides of the glue. And if you can see that little bit of an indentation, you know that you've done a really good job. So I have put this patch on here. It is going to be on forever. And I think it looks pretty sharp. And I think that your customers would like it too. And the same works with the other material, with the patch material. This is the twill material that we used. Now, this is a great time to ask questions because I am going to go back to the website and I'm going to show you a few things on the website. So let me, I'm going to do a switch to here. This, by the way, it's the same method if I would have used that material, if I would have made Andy's shirt right there. It's the same method if I would have used this one. Nothing changes in how we would have cut these things out, right? We cut out a couple patches, we get the edge nice and close as we can, we clean it up with our hot knife, and remember, you want to use the heat spun material behind your patch mat. Behind your patch material, you use the heat spun as your stabilizer. The heat seal goes on the back of everything. All your patches use heat seal. Why? Let me just show you how the back of this looks. It's so clean. None of those bobbin threads are hanging out. It actually protects the embroidery too. None of the bobbin threads can get caught on anything. They won't fall out. They won't rip out. You've glued them, the bobbin, in place basically. I mean, so this really improves the longevity of the embroidery. It has a nice clean finish on the back. You know, it feels nice. It's got stability to it. So it's not really heavy. You know, it's pliable, that it's going to bend with the shirt. So if you wear this on a shirt, it's not a piece of stiff, you know, material, but it'll move nicely on the shirt, but it still has stability where you can pick up and hold this thing and you can hand it to somebody and say, all right, take your iron, crank it up, turn the steam off, put it on your shirt, hold it down for maybe 20 seconds. If it feels like it's on, it probably is. If it doesn't feel like it's on, turn it inside out, do it a little bit more. That's it. Done. And they can apply it themselves. So can you do it to caps? Yes, you can. I'm so glad you asked that because I almost forgot to say it. I'm going to do a video on caps. There's no instructional difference, so you can attend or not when you see the invitation online or via email or on our website. But yes, we have customers, and I've done them on caps myself. Cap press is what I recommend. Do the same exact thing that we did before. Throw it on your cap press. Take your material, take your patch, put it right on your cap. Under the cap press, boom, you've got your cap designed with a patch. That is in now. If you embroider caps, start doing that because offer it to your customers. For one, they're going to love it. It's kind of in, it's really growing. A lot of your competition is not going to do it. Why? Because they have an embroidery machine. They know how to embroider on hats, but they don't do patches. But you watch this webinar, now you know how to do patches, right? You're a pro, so you can do it. I recommend the caps though. All right, I'm going to turn the camera off. Hopefully we've seen everything. I'll turn it back on if we really need to, but I'm going to go to the screen share again. And let me just show you what I was talking about before. All right, here is the patch page. All right, so let me take you through the journey. You go to colemanandcompany.com. I shared the link with you before. You can scroll down and you can see start selling patches, easily create professional patches, start here. And that'll bring you to the custom patches page. You can watch another webinar. Michael was on here. He's the one that kind of started this whole thing with Coleman and Company. And millions of patches are made across the country because of Michael putting this kit together. Millions. It's a very popular product, and I think you're going to like it. So come down here. Here's where you can find your heat seal backing. We just sell it in different size rolls. You're going to find your heat seal and your heat spun, so if you need to buy more of each, okay? It tells you don't buy heat spun unless you read what it's used for. And then if you click on heat spun is our answer to the glue that is not on the back of the patch material. You use it before you hoop. It's a stabilizer. And there's instructions right there. And if we go back, you'll see the instructions right here in the patch page. So again, Coleman and Company, patches, instructions. Step 1, step 2, all with time and temperatures. And they give you some stuff. And here's the original patch video. This thing has been shared and watched plenty times. Patch kits. So if you click on that, here's where you can buy kits. We've got a kit for the Duo kit, which has been our most popular kit for a long time. It's got 2 pieces of patch material. We've got the patch kit Trio Twill. So that's a twill one if you want the matte finished one. That's got 3 different colors in it. No heat spun because you don't need it. You just have the heat seal. This one you'll have the heat spun and the heat seal. We've got smaller kits if you really just want to test it, get a taste of it, see if you like it. You can buy these kits. And then if you're ready to go, The patch kit HP comes with that 12-inch heat press. Great way to get started. If you don't have a heat press, great little investment for the money. And for $400, you're gonna get a heat press and a patch kit duo, basically. And then you've got your patch kit Pro. That's got the heat press you saw me use today, a 14-inch heat press, which is it's a beast. We've had this thing for years in our office here. It's a beast, and it's great for just doing little patchwork because you don't need a huge material and you don't need a lot of options. So it's a good way to go. And then we've got our patch borders. Okay, I didn't talk about this in the beginning, but the patch borders are ways that you can already have a pre-digitized border on your patches. If you take a regular satin stitch that's not very dense and make it as a border, then go to cut it out with a patch, you're going to get some threads that pop up and get out of place as you're cutting them, and they don't kind of cauterize. They're going to pop up, and you're going to be trimming threads. And if it's really not dense, you're going to get a bunch of missing spaces. The patch borders are digitized with a very heavy underlay, very dense, and then an additional what we call like a full around lock stitch. You know, it's kind of what we've kind of called it, but it's basically another satin stitch within the original satin stitch to really lock that in. So you can make those on your own. But if you're not great at digitizing and you want to get going, boom, I just want name tags, I want states, I want shapes, I want to do fire EMT. You get this stuff. It's $100 for individual ones, or $300 for the full set. But you get this, and you're gonna be happy that you got it. You open it up, you add lettering. It doesn't require any digitizing skills. You just have to be able to know how to add lettering. And give us a call if you need tips on how to do it. But it's a great thing that we put together to really help people get going with their patches. If you buy the Pro kit, you get all these, by the way. If you buy the HP kit, you get one of them. So let's just see. It looks like there might be other questions. No. Okay, good. So we've answered the questions. We've covered everything. We've talked about the patch kits. While you're here on our page, click around. We've got a t-shirt system. We've got a rhinestone making system. If you're in direct-to-garment printing, we've got a pre-treat machine that has a financing program available for it. We've got this really cool laser alignment system made by Hotronics. We've got vinyl printed. So go on our homepage. You'll see videos for other stuff that we've done. And please call us. Our phone number is right on the top. People call and ask about the patches. And we've got people waiting to answer your questions and help you out on patches, t-shirts, rhinestones, pre-treating, everything. So thank you for watching. Please join us again another time, and hopefully you can go online and buy some patch materials and get going yourself. Thank you again, and have a great evening.